The Event, a science fiction thriller series by Melanie Ann Phillips. Episode 12. Into the Zone. Paris, sitting a little more than 2 degrees east of longitude 0, resides approximately 150 kilometers from the prime meridian, and as the nexus of the event network and largest intact metropolitan area near the event line, was quickly becoming the major staging area for post-event survival efforts, though London, being right at the event interface, was already the hub for the growing number of scientists experimenting to determine the qualities of the event zone and volunteers testing the attributes of various materials and assemblies when passed across the line. In addition, all of these rubbed elbows with the huge humanitarian and relief effort for those remaining in the event zone. Ironically, France had put forth its own Paris meridian, originally proposed in the late 1600s as the world standard. For centuries, a battle ensued between the British and French proposals until an international committee in 1884 declared the prime meridian as the one passing through Greenwich. To this day some have wondered that, if the French had prevailed, might not their city have been bisected at the point of origin, and London would have been wiped completely from the face of the map within the first few minutes. On the science front, it was determined that, astonishingly, laser light would not penetrate the affected area, as discovered not by the science teams, but by those testing the etching of stones. A solid advertisement for interdisciplinary communication. Perhaps even stranger, the light from ordinary flashlights passed normally from the safe side to the other. The working hypothesis was that coherent light does not exist naturally on the Earth under normal circumstances, and therefore was determined, ostensibly by the event or whatever intelligence was behind it, to be man-made. Testing continued, with a priority focus on what foodstuffs might remain after the interface had passed, so that governments and organizations could begin to gather and distribute the sustenance that would shortly be needed in the lands upon which the event was bearing down. Initial results found that processed food of any kind simply disappeared, a blow to preppers and campers with hordes of freeze-dried supplies, who were still under the delusion they would have plenty to eat. Interestingly, vegetables that were dehydrated rather than freeze-dried remained. As the event network released information, as soon as it was available, those who would never have touched a vegetable in their lives were suddenly out in the produce markets of the world fighting for their share of the fresh crop. In no time at all, every available home dehydration unit was torn from the shelves and delivered same day from online sources for a premium price. In regard to relief efforts, the manufacture of footwear in the zone had become a minor industry, and the quality of the product had vastly improved. Shoes were now sold with untanned leather, which also served to crudely stitch them together as surprisingly functional sandals. Still, it was calculated that even those with the fleetest of feet, accordingly shod, would be unable to sustain a pace much over 5 kilometers per hour, and even the best-trained long-distance walkers might not exceed 50 kilometers per day, and much less under current conditions. The distance from London to the far west edges of Wales or Cornwall, both semi-independent of England in different ways, is roughly 220 kilometers, which would easily require more than a week before they would receive news or assistance by foot, though surely they were in dire need and completely unaware as to the nature of that which had happened. It was suggested by members of London's Metropolitan Police Mounted Branch that their 116 horses might be up to the task. Unfortunately, since the horses' shoes disappeared upon entering the event zone, and given that unshod hooves were not hardened with calluses and therefore easily damaged, the plan was temporarily put aside. Still, The need to at least inform the millions of people across the West of the nature of the event and what they could do until help arrived led to proposed solutions both obvious and novel. NATO air patrols cruising the line at altitudes of at least 4,000 meters could see all the way to the coast, limited only by atmospheric conditions. But from the ground, with the resolution of the human eye, the planes were only visible at up to 40 kilometers before they fell below the size of a small dot. In addition, aerial flares were only visible up to 15 kilometers in daylight and 50 kilometers at night. And so, those deep within the affected zone could not be contacted by ordinary aircraft. One rescuer suggested that a blimp, being larger and with a cruising ceiling of no more than 4,000 meters, might be more easily seen, and one with the electric light array on its side could perhaps send messages or at least Morse code. A few calculations, however, revealed that not only would such an effort be readable for perhaps just 5 kilometers, but the brightest of the LED lights would not allow dots and dashes to be seen further away than 10 or 15. In any event, by the time a blimp could arrive on scene, rescuers would have already walked in that far. Other inventive suggestions included firing information capsules made of non-disappearing material into the zone with catapults or air cannon, assembling wooden model gliders in the zone and sending them soaring, or perhaps fashioning Japanese lanterns with attached messages. Unfortunately, no matter how well-intentioned, none of these proposals got off the ground for a variety of reasons, not the least of which were the prevailing winds coming from the west. In the end, it was decided that teams of rescuers on foot should start off into the zone immediately, followed by a fleet of green lumber wooden carts made from parts pre-cut in a subtractive manner and assembled using dowels and mallets that could be constructed on the event side of the line. These carts could be loaded with food and critical materials known to survive in the zone and pulled by horses, giving the Metropolitan Police mounted branch the opportunity to contribute. Soon an army clad in sandals and skins led shoeless horses strapped to wooden carts into the wilderness of western England. Read the entire event series in paperback, audiobook, or for your Kindle on Amazon at the link in the video description below. Your narrator is Don Warrick. The event series is written and copyrighted by Melanie Ann Phillips.